How to wholesale a property with a tenant. You've got this great deal, but there's one little caveat. The landlord has a problematic tenant in place and he's giving you a smoking deal, but you have to buy it in the tenant. Don't panic. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to buy this property and not stress out. Guys, this is Rick Ginn with Flip with Rick. And do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you want to hear more videos and free content just like this. So you got a property and the landlord wants you to buy it with a tenant in it. What do you do? So you can either like freak out and like, what am I going to do? Or you can watch this video and watch step by step on how to deal with this situation. The truth of the matter is in wholesaling, we buy and fix problems and we get a nice fee for doing that. It seems to reason that a landlord would be eager and highly motivated to sell a property with a tenant that either A, not paying rent, B, is maybe being difficult, or maybe even trash the property. So these are common in your wholesaling business and I want you to expect it. Because I actually like dealing with this problem because I get deep, deep discounts because a lot of times the landlord is so motivated. He's like, fine. If you're going to take the tenant with it, make sure you have a sizable discount. You need to plan for the worst case scenario. The discounts are often extremely, extremely steep. A minimum 10, 15%. I've seen them as high as 40 and 50%. It's up to you to negotiate. The first thing you want to do when you're negotiating a deal like this, I'm going to get under contract and I'm going to immediately find a way to meet with that tenant. You know why? I want to find out what the real problem is. So I've learned there's always two sides to a story. There's one on the landlord side and there's one on the tenant side. And somewhere the truth usually lies in between. The really cool thing is when you meet with the tenant, they are loaded with information about the property. They'll tell you everything about the landlord. Heck, I've even had the tenant help me negotiate a better buy because they tell me all the problems that the landlord didn't tell me about the property. So you have it under contract, have a due diligence period, usually 3 to 7 days, and go and talk to the tenants. How do I do it? Let's just knock on the door. Hey, I just want to ask you a little bit about the property. Honestly, you don't even have to tell me you have it under contract. Most tenants sing like canaries and they want someone to help them and fix the properties. Now, I'm not going to go out and scream, I'm the buyer. I'm a potential buyer if you have to do that. And they're going to tell you everything that's wrong with the landlord and the property. And honestly, this is a godsend for you. This is how you get the deep discount. They're going to tell you everything. They're not only going to tell you, they're going to come in and show you in the property and they're going to tell you what the landlord said, what he did, and why they're not paying the rent. And you've got to take that information and kind of underwrite the deal and find out where the truth lies and decide if you want to move forward. So let's assume you're moving forward. You're getting a nice big discount. There's two things we must address. Okay. Number one, we have to disclose everything. So we're talking about wholesaling a property with a tenant in it. I want all parties to know. So obviously the landlord knows we're buying it with the tenant. Whoever my cash buyer is, they know they're getting the tenant with it. Number two, we are going to do this with dignity. We are not going to embarrass people. We are not going to lie to people. So many wholesalers want to hide this dirty little secret that there's a tenant out there. Don't worry, they'll be out shortly. We're here to help people. Don't lie. You're just cheating the system. You're gonna cause misery and pain. And why? Life's too short for this. You got a great discount. You're gonna have to pass some of that on to the new buyer, the cash buyer. So don't stress about it. The only time you stress about it, if you're paying too much for the property and you're trying to pass off the problem, that's where a lot of wholesalers get in trouble. But I know you guys are sharper than one disclosure I'm going to give you on this one. I do not recommend wholesaling a property, meaning you're going to do it via assignment with a current homeowner in it to stay in place. It's risky. Understanding when you assign it, you can have liability if that homeowner doesn't leave. They have certain rights because they were the previous owner. You really do not want to get in that gray area. I have never done that. You're better off just waiting till they're ready to move out and give them incentive to move out. So if you try to beat the system by trying to leave the homeowner in place and renting back, because a lot of homeowners try that, it's a recipe for disaster and it's going to put you in a bad light if you're ever in the court of law. So my recommendation, if you had to do that, you would actually have to close on the property. You still have a ton of risk. It's hard to kick a homeowner out of their home, even when they don't own it anymore. So I've never done it. I've seen horror stories. I've avoided properties like this. So heed the warning on that part. I talked about disclosure. We're going to let everybody know what we're doing. And number two, we're going to do stuff with dignity. There's no, even with the renters, you're going to treat them exactly the way you'd want your mother treated. And hopefully that's good. The first thing we do after we have our two main rules is we want to go over the lease. So what you want to do is try to get a copy of the lease from the landlord. And typically you want to ask for a copy of the lease from the tenant. Make sure they match up. A lot of times these leases, like sometimes you have tenants in there 5-10 years. A lot of leases after 1 year roll over on an automatic month to month. Don't assume it. Verify it. Verify how much the landlord says he's getting paid. Verify how much the tenant says they're getting paid, or if anybody's getting paid. That's step one. Knowing where you are on the lease. There is a huge difference between a yearly lease and a monthly lease. The rule of thumb is the shorter the lease, the more options you have. If you're going to buy a property and they just signed a 1-year lease, that's going to be a challenge because that tenant has the right to stay in there up to a year as long as they honor their end of the agreement. On the month-to-month, you could end it after 30 days and you could be on your merry way, or you can raise the rent. You can do anything. On the yearly lease, you're stuck for the term of the lease. So knowing that going into it, I like month-to-month because I have a lot of options. What do we do when there's no lease in place? Find out when they did the original lease. At some point, there's no way the landlord's going to move in without a lease. They've probably lost it at that point and it's gone month to month. At that point, you can ask them to sign a month-to-month agreement with you when you take over the property, or you can ask them to vacate the property. You can never take over a property without a lease. So we've gone on everything on the lease. Make sure you get it from both sides of the parties so you can make sure you're getting the truth of everything on the property. Step number two, which is really probably the most important part, is now that you got all the information from the tenant, you got it from the landlord, is you're going to have to build rapport with the tenant. It's a little bit different than how I teach you how to do it with a motivated seller. Is you want to connect with them, but you still have to keep it friendly business. So don't become their best friends because you're just trying to get a property sold and solve the landlord's issue. And your loyalty truly is to the landlord because that's how you got the deal. But you need to treat the tenant with dignity and respect. So get to know them, understand how they operate, how many family members. Pets are huge. Pets are huge. Find out if they have a dog, if they have a cat that fires out the door. The reason is you're going to have to set up showings for the property, and it's important you understand their lifestyle. Most tenants I deal with are very flexible. They're looking for someone to take over the property to hopefully give them a long-term lease. Now, do not make the mistake of saying, yeah, I'm going to sell this to someone and they're going to fix the place up and keep you as a long-term tenant. And they'll do it for this amount. That's just a flat out lie. So just say, listen, I'm trying to make this situation better. The reality is a lot of these renters, when we buy these properties, the rents are way low because the landlord got lazy, he got tired, and he never raised the rents. And then he never fixed it up, and it's just this vicious cycle that happens. So don't put your foot in your mouth because you want your cash buyer. He probably wants to buy on cash flow. He might look at the values, but a lot of times landlords are going to buy it based on cash flow. What do I mean by that? How much money can I rent that house for? Is it $1,200? Is it $1,500? Is it $1,000? It has a huge effect on how easy it is to assign your wholesale deal. So keep it friendly business. Be nice, be respectful, but don't lie. If you know the rents are going to go up, I always look at it, go, the rent's probably going to go up, but you're going to get a better place that they're going to take care of. You'll have to make on-time payments, whoever the owner is. But the best way to do that is just help me show the house, and then I'll give you an introduction to the new buyer, and then you guys can see if you can work it out. See, I treat them with dignity, I give them respect, but I don't lie. For those of you who say, hey, someone's going to take it over and going to sign a 1-year lease for you and it's going to be the same price, you're flat out lying and you're going to create stress for your new buyer. He'll never buy from you again. He's probably going to give you a lot of crap for it. And the renter is going to be really ticked. Remember, these people have families. A lot of them have kids. They need time to move and do everything. Understanding the tenant's lifestyle so you can accommodate to do showings is huge. Most of the time, either yourself or someone in your company will be there to show the house, but you don't want the tenant just like popping off and going dark. Listen, your cash buyer knows what they're buying. They can see the condition of the property. The idea is not to embarrass them and let people come in and out of the house. I never just send a buyer over there blindly. You got to have someone over there to control the situation. So the next step on step number 3 is now we've identified all the information on the lease. We've built rapport. We've established permissions to show the house and the time frames if there's pets, etc. Now we're going to provide solutions. What do I mean by solutions? This is where you come in as the entrepreneur in wholesaling real estate. If the tenant is really difficult and your new buyer says, listen, I'm not buying it until they vacate it or they have to leave in 30 days of buying it, then you can simply, if you're making a really nice profit, offer cash for keys. Rick, what is cash for keys? It's exactly what it says is you give me the keys to that unit and I'll give you cash and you can move on with your life and get a new place and start a new relationship. Everybody wins. Or I have to take that money and consider doing an eviction and I rather give you the money than a lawyer. Is that something you're open to? Like, yeah, I really been thinking about getting out of this place. It's such a rat hole, yada, yada. Cash for keys, it works. Now, you have to be flexible. I try to pass the cash for keys off and have the new buyer deal with it. But sometimes we have to give them, I've given them as much as $1,000. So I'm making say a $20,000 deal and I have to give up $1,000. I'll walk away with my integrity, my pride, and I treat everyone respectful than being like that squirrely guy who just passes on the end buyer. He doesn't know about it. He winds up evicting the tenant. Tenant's on the street. It's bad for everyone. So just be clear, who's going to do the cash for keys? A lot of times you have that relationship. What you can do is if your buyer signs the assignment agreement, you can bring them to meet with the tenant and let him work out the deal. And then if he hems and haws, you might have to do like a slight price adjustment. Guys, the whole point of this is you can make a lot more money solving these problems. You just got to know how to solve it. So I buy tons of properties with tenant and it works. Just make sure you're getting a deep enough discount. You're disclosing everything. It's such a profitable niche, guys. I mean, I love this part of the business. A lot of times when we meet the tenant and like, say I brought like 3 or 4 buyers, I kind of pushed it that day. Just bring them by a gift card, maybe to like a Starbucks or maybe at the local grocery store. Those little things, those little pleasantries will get you a long way in this business. And so many people overlook this. Simple gestures. I've always told you a win-win situation is the best thing for real estate investing, especially in wholesaling. So we're talking about tenants here. So help them out. Like just get them little gestures, little things that help. Just be honest with them. Don't lie to it. I'm telling you, if you take the high road and just tell the truth, it's much easier because you don't have to try to make up these lies as you're going. I don't know where in wholesaling people just started lying about everything. You don't have to do it. Honestly, if the buyer's not happy with the conditions, I promise you there's another buyer right behind them that will be okay with it. So keep it business friendly. Guys, I want you to go out and buy properties with problem tenants because it is one of the highest profitable wholesale deals you can do. And yes, you can move them in under 30 days. The main thing is do not run over the tenant. Include them in the transaction. Give them respect. And little pleasantries will go a long way. So you guys, tell me what you think. Do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And tell me if you think you can wholesale a property with a tenant. Have you done it? Tell me, give me your worst case scenario. What's happened? Has it worked out for you? I can tell you, I've done over 1,000 of them. Every now and then we get some doozies, but we always make them work because I'm in it for a win-win situation. So do me a favor, go out, flip a house with a tenant in it. It's possible, it's highly profitable, and I want you to be successful. Guys, this is Rick Ginn with Flip with Rick, and I'll see you in the next video.